Hello, and this is the first time we will be doing voiceovers on this channel. In this video, we will be reacting to the initial design plans for the stations on the Broadway extension of the Millennium Line. We will just be going over some of the more important details as well as, some of the common themes in these stations. Specifically, I wanted to focus more on movement inside these stations as well as transit bus and train operations. Stay tuned in the end, as we will be going over a few questions moving forward. And before we begin, please consider subscribing for more transit content every Wednesday. We are trying to push for 200 subs at the moment. Also, please consider following the channel on Instagram, which you can find the link in the description. Now, some of you may have heard the station designs were released in an online consultation, which you can learn more about in the description. But we'll just do a quick rundown of the extension for a bit of context. The Arbutus extension will send the Millennium Line under Broadway and will consist of 6 stations at about 6 kilometers. These stations are Great Northern Way Emily Carr, try saying that a million times fast, Mount Pleasant, Broadway City Hall, the existing Canada Line station, Oak VGH, South Granville, and the terminus at Arbutus. All of these stations consist of an island platform with a concourse level on top. They also have their fare gates at street level, except South Granville, which has its fare gates at the lower concourse level. Now, right off the bat, there are some recurring features and design elements in these stations. The first thing we need to talk about is the concourse level in all these stations, and this ties in with the construction methods in this project. We already saw how bad cut and cover was when we did the Canada Line. And we still see some businesses still going through repercussions to this day, according to a few news articles. So the decision was made to bore 2 smaller bored tunnels. It is cheaper to build 2 smaller tunnels instead of 1 large tunnel. If you learned circle geometry in grade school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Thus, deeper tunnels need to be made, and therefore the stations need to be deeper. And when your stations are deeper, you need to have some way to offset your stairs and escalators. Because land is at a premium here in Vancouver, you want to acquire the least amount of land area for your site. And because of these factors, there are a few things regarding vertical movement which we must discuss. First is that the stairs and escalators follow a common theme going down from street level. And that is that the stairs are in the middle of the 2 escalators. And we saw this all over the place, especially on the Evergreen extension when that opened. This is pretty good in my opinion, since now you have options on how to get between platform level and street level, unlike lots of these Expo Line stations. Second is that because of that concourse level, you can't actually take an elevator directly from platform level to street level. You must change elevators at the concourse level. Now, there are all sorts of trade-offs with this design, and this all stems from the design of the stations. Basically, would you rather wait a bit longer for a direct elevator, or would you rather wait a shorter while for 2 elevators? You can also argue that there are more people moving using 2 separate elevators compared to just 1. And if riders do not want to deal with these elevators, or if there's a problem at one of the stations, there is always route number 9 at street level. Besides, aside from waterfront, there aren't really any underground island platform stations here in Vancouver that have elevators that go directly to street level. And this could set a precedent as far as underground stations in general here in Vancouver. What's also interesting is that there are provisions for washrooms in this system. Obviously, this will bring about a bunch of questions regarding safety, ethics, and operations. And we are really curious as to what will be done to make these safe. Washrooms at transit stations are heavily debated, not just here in Vancouver, but across North America in general because of various safety reasons and ethics. Personally, I think that having an actual hand washing station with no toilets will still be effective in making places cleaner. In fact, some can argue that having hand washing sinks is much better and much more effective than having hand sanitizer pumps. I saw this commonplace when I was in the Philippines at the beginning of this year. The next thing that we need to talk about is the commercial retail units. This is also a welcome addition as far as convenience for people being able to have some decent food during the commute. Now, we did see a few existing stations get Tim Hortons during this pandemic using money before the health crisis happened. Personally, I would like to see more choice in terms of retail, so maybe a bubble tea shop or a local brand. One thing that stood out on the diagrams is the length of the platforms, which says that they are 82.5 meters in length. We will get into that shortly. But that said, there's nothing regarding platform width. The best we can do is assume that they will be just as wide as Canada Line downtown stations. We will end this video by pondering on a few questions, and these are based on online discussion on various forums, group chats, and other apps. Number 1, will there be enough space at Broadway City Hall? On the Canada line, with the trains purchased in 2020, we're supposed to be seeing 22 trains per hour per direction according to the scheduling data, and that's up from 18 trains per hour per direction. By the way, for the 99B line, I believe it's the same, 22 buses per hour per direction during rush hour. So picture the amount of people exiting the stations every 2 or so minutes. Obviously, due to the global health crisis, we have not seen any of the current modes at full capacity for a long while. Add in the fact that this station only has one exit to street level. Perhaps this could be a trade-off from having septet principles, like the one that limits entrances and exits to limit the escape path of someone who has committed a crime. Thus, it is not a matter of an expansion of Broadway City Hall will happen, but when. Now, those responsible for the project have said that most of the passenger movement that will be happening at the station will be underground between the two lines. But even though that is the case, some have brought up how there is still not enough room for people moving between the two lines underground. Besides, having one exit for a major transport station like Broadway City Hall is not enough to handle two SkyTrain lines. Building off of that, will we see longer platforms? As far as what is known, the new expansion trains, so the ones replacing the Mark 1s, those are supposed to be 5 cars long, so 85 meters long. The platforms, on the other hand, are 82.5 meters long. For starters, a platform would need to be around 100 meters long to fit 6 car trains at 17 meters per car. Now, you can get away with maximizing capacity by having full sideways seating, but once that frequency maxes out, they need to look at having 6 car trains as an option. If that ends up being the case, then you need to decide whether or not there are enough escalators and elevators to handle an extra car per train. How long will it take for South Granville to become as busy as Broadway City Hall in 2020? This area arguably has more bus service than Broadway City Hall, and there's a lot of retail and food in the area with places like McDonald's, Chapters, Indigo, and various stores along Granville Street. So it should not come as a surprise if the station becomes the second busiest station on the opening day. Will people swap to 49 or R4 to save an extra transfer? And I'm talking about those coming in from Surrey, Langley, and even Burnaby and New Westminster. The 49 is currently getting a bit of transit priority work being done, which is gonna make it faster. I think some students will figure that they'll be standing on a bus anyways when going to UBC, so why not save yourself the 5 to 10 minute transfer and take the one bus going to UBC? Another question we have, what will be the future of Arbutus Station once the line is extended to UBC? So basically, you have all this space for the shortened 99B line, so we're curious if this will become a hub for maybe a potential Arbutus Greenway light rail station. Who knows? And what's more interesting is that despite being near 2 largely popular bike routes, the station only gets a set of bike racks. And this leads to our final question for this video. To what extent is the line integrated with the cycling network? So as we said before, the line runs very close to well-known bicycle paths such as Arbutus Greenway and 10th Avenue. However, with that said, I believe Emily Carr is the only station with a dedicated bike locker storage. Now we have to acknowledge that Vancouver is one of the few major cities, at least here in North America, that recognizes that transit is part of a larger transportation network. So we're curious to see how these decisions play out over time. Anyways, do you have any thoughts on these station designs? Leave those in the comments below, as well as in the survey in the description. Also, please remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. That will be it for now. Cheers.